Someone speaks to you like you're beneath them. The tone, the words, that subtle condescension that says, "I'm above you and we both know it." Your face heats up. Your mind races for the perfect response. But by the time you think of something, the moment is gone. And later, you replay it, over and over. What you should have said, how you should have reacted. You feel small, not because of their words, but because you let them pass without standing your ground. Here's what nobody teaches you. How you respond in that moment determines who holds the power. React emotionally, they win. Stay silent and swallow it, they win. But respond strategically with calm control. That changes everything, and you don't need to raise your voice to do it. This isn't about being aggressive or passive. It's about being intentional, protecting your dignity without lowering yourself to their level. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Today, I'm going to show you 7 powerful ways to respond when someone talks down to you. Number 4 is the one most people never think to use, but it stops condescension in its tracks without any confrontation. By the end, you'll never feel powerless in a conversation again. Stay with me. Number 1, pause and let the silence do the work. The fastest response is almost never the most powerful one. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is nothing, for just long enough to make them uncomfortable. You've felt that urge. Someone talks down to you and everything inside screams to respond immediately. Defend yourself, fire back, say something clever. Your heart races, words pile up in your throat. You want to react right now. But here's what most people don't realize. That urgency is exactly what gives them power. The moment you react instantly, you've shown they got to you. You've handed them control of the conversation. What if you did the opposite? I watched this happen in a meeting once. A man named Victor was presenting when a colleague interrupted with a condescending remark. "That's a nice idea, but let's hear from someone who actually understands the business." The room tensed. Everyone waited for Victor to fire back or shrink into silence. He did neither. Victor paused, held eye contact with the person who interrupted him. Let 3 full seconds of silence fill the room. No reaction on his face, no defensiveness in his posture, just calm, composed stillness. Then quietly he said, "Interesting. Please continue." That was it, nothing more. The colleague stumbled, started to speak, but lost momentum. The silence had already done its work. Victor didn't attack, but he didn't submit either. That pause made him look like the most composed person in the room, and it made his colleague look petty and small. Here's why this works. People who talk down to you expect a reaction. They want you flustered. They want you defensive. When you pause instead, you deny them that satisfaction completely. You create uncertainty, and uncertainty is deeply uncomfortable for someone who is trying to establish dominance. The pause also gives you something invaluable: time. Time to shift from emotion to logic. Time to choose your response instead of reacting automatically. In that pause, you take back control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The pause is where that power lives. It's the moment you decide that you, not them, control what happens next. You've probably reacted too fast before, said something you regretted, let emotion drive when logic should have steered. Most people have. The pause is how you break that pattern. Next time someone talks down to you, resist the urge to respond instantly. Breathe. Count to 3 in your head. Let the silence sit. Feel how uncomfortable it makes them. Then respond, or choose not to respond at all. Either way, you've already demonstrated something powerful. You're not rattled, you're in control. The pause creates space and shifts the dynamic. But sometimes you need words, and the next method uses a simple question to flip the entire conversation. Number 2, ask them to repeat themselves. Sometimes the most powerful response is the simplest one. Make them say it again, and watch how quickly their confidence fades. You've been caught off guard before. Someone says something condescending and it hits you before you can process it. Your brain scrambles for the right comeback, but nothing comes. The moment passes, and you're left replaying what you should have said. Here's a technique that requires no clever comeback, no quick thinking, just one calm question. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? That's it. Nothing aggressive, nothing confrontational, just a simple request for clarification. But what happens next changes everything. Let me tell you about a woman named Rachel. At a family dinner, a relative made a condescending comment about her career. Still doing that little job of yours? When are you going to get a real profession? The table went quiet. Everyone waited to see how Rachel would react. She could have defended herself, could have listed her accomplishments, could have argued about what counts as a real profession. Instead, she tilted her head slightly and said, "I'm sorry, can you say that again? I want to make sure I understood you correctly." The relative hesitated, repeated a softer version, something about just being curious about her plans. Rachel nodded slowly. "And what exactly do you mean by real profession?" By now, the relative was visibly uncomfortable, backtracking. "I didn't mean anything by it, just curious, that's all." Rachel smiled and moved on. She never raised her voice, never defended herself, never argued. She just asked questions and let the person hear their own words reflected back at them. The condescension collapsed under its own weight. Here's why this works. Condescension relies on speed and ambiguity. It hits fast and moves on before anyone can examine it too closely. When you slow things down and ask for clarity, the person is forced to confront what they actually said. Most people aren't prepared for that. They expect you to absorb it silently or react emotionally. They don't expect you to calmly ask them to repeat themselves. That request puts all the pressure back on them, without you doing anything aggressive at all. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Often condescending remarks sound powerful in the moment, but crumble when examined. Asking someone to repeat themselves exposes how hollow their words really are. You've probably swallowed comments you wished you'd challenged. Let things slide because you couldn't find the right words fast enough. This technique removes that pressure. You don't need the perfect response. You just need one question. Practice these phrases until they feel natural. Could you repeat that? What do you mean by that? Can you explain what you mean? Say them calmly, without edge, without accusation. And watch how quickly the dynamic shifts in your favor. If asking someone to repeat themselves has ever shifted the power back to you, type, "I choose my response" below. To inspire yourself and others that we always have the power to control how we react. Asking for repetition exposes their words. But the next method goes further. It addresses their behavior directly without creating confrontation. Number 3, name the behavior calmly. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply say what everyone is thinking, but do it so calmly that they can't accuse you of overreacting. You've felt it before. Someone talks down to you and everyone in the room notices. The tone, the dismissiveness, it hangs in the air, but nobody says anything, including you. You absorb it, move on, and later wonder why you didn't speak up. Here's the thing, you don't need to attack someone to address their behavior, you just need to name it, calmly, directly, without emotion. That came across as condescending. The tone felt a bit dismissive. That sounded like you're talking down to me. No accusation, no drama, just observation. And that observation changes everything. There was a man named Adrian who worked for a manager with a habit of belittling people. In meetings, she'd say things like, "I'll explain this slowly so even you can follow along." Or, "Let me use smaller words for this one." Always with a smile. Always just subtle enough to make challenging it feel awkward. One day, after she delivered another condescending explanation, Adrian spoke, calmly, without anger. "That felt condescending. I'm sure that wasn't your intention, but I wanted to mention it." The room went silent. The manager paused, clearly caught off guard. Nobody had ever named it before. Everyone had just absorbed it. "I didn't mean it that way," she said, visibly uncomfortable. "I appreciate that," Adrian replied. "Just wanted to make sure we communicate respectfully going forward." That was it. No argument, no escalation, just a calm observation followed by a reasonable expectation. The manager never spoke to Adrian that way again, not because he threatened her, not because he created conflict, but because he made her aware, in front of others, of exactly what she was doing. Awareness changes behavior. Here's why this works. Most people who talk down to others do it habitually. They're not fully conscious of it. It's become automatic. When you name the behavior calmly and specifically, you bring it into the light. You force them to see what they just did. The key is staying neutral. No anger, no accusation, no emotional charge, just observation. This makes it nearly impossible for them to dismiss you as overreacting or being too sensitive. You're simply describing reality. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Decide that you're someone who deserves respect. Then calmly communicate that standard, without apology, without aggression. You've probably let behavior slide that you should have named. Stayed quiet when speaking up would have changed everything. Most people have. Naming behavior takes practice. But once you do it, you'll wonder why you waited so long. Practice these phrases. That felt dismissive. That came across as patronizing. That sounded condescending. Keep your tone matter of fact. You're not starting a fight. You're setting a standard. Naming the behavior addresses it directly. But the next method is more subtle. It removes the power of condescension without any confrontation at all. Number 4. Respond to the content, not the tone. This is the method most people never think to use, and it's devastatingly effective. Instead of reacting to how they said it, respond only to what they said, and watch their condescension lose all its power. You've been trapped by this before. Someone delivers information wrapped in a condescending tone. Your instinct is to react to the tone, defend yourself, push back, show that you're not someone to be talked down to. But that's exactly what they expect, and it's exactly what keeps the cycle going. What if you ignored the delivery completely? What if you responded only to the facts, as if they'd spoken to you with perfect respect? I watched this transform a workplace dynamic. A woman named Claire had a co-worker who constantly spoke to her like she was incompetent. Let me explain this simply for you. I know this might be too complex, but try to follow along. Maybe you should take notes so you don't forget. Every comment dripped with condescension, and every time Claire felt that familiar heat rise in her chest, she could have called it out, could have reported it, could have fired back with something equally cutting. Instead, she chose something unexpected. Every time her co-worker used that tone, Claire responded only to the information, as if the condescension didn't exist. Thanks for the context. I'll review the data and follow up by Thursday. Got it. I'll implement that change and send you an update. Understood. I'll loop in the team and handle it from here. No reaction to the tone, no defensiveness, no acknowledgement that anything was wrong. Just calm, professional responses to the content. At first, nothing seemed to change, but over weeks, something shifted. The co-worker's condescension started fading. It wasn't getting the reaction it needed to survive. Claire had starved it of oxygen without ever saying a word about it. Here's why this works. Condescension needs a reaction to thrive. It needs you flustered, defensive, or visibly bothered. When you respond only to the substance, calmly and professionally, you send a clear message. Your tone doesn't affect me. Only your information matters. This is incredibly disarming. The person can't accuse you of being difficult or confrontational. You're just professional. And that unshakable professionalism makes their pettiness look smaller every time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." By refusing to acknowledge the condescending tone, you choose not to be harmed by it. You remove its power completely. You've probably taken the bait before, reacted to how something was said instead of what was said. Let tone hijack your emotions when content should have guided your response. Most people have. Next time someone speaks condescendingly, mentally strip away the delivery. What's the actual message? Respond only to that. Don't acknowledge the wrapper. Over time, the wrapper will change because it stopped working. If you're learning to respond to what matters and ignore what doesn't, hit subscribe. This channel is for those who refuse to let anyone's tone control their peace. Ignoring the tone removes its power. But sometimes you need something stronger, a clear line that cannot be crossed. Number 5. Set a clear boundary with calm authority. There comes a point where subtle techniques aren't enough. Sometimes you need to draw a clear line and do it with such calm authority that crossing it again becomes unthinkable. You've been in situations where the condescension didn't stop, where ignoring it didn't work, where asking questions or naming the behavior wasn't enough. Some people keep pushing until they hit a wall, and if you never build that wall, they never stop. This is where boundaries come in. Not aggressive confrontation, not emotional outbursts, just calm, clear statements about what you will and won't accept, delivered with the quiet confidence of someone who means every word. Picture this. A man named Samuel was meeting with a client who treated him like a servant. "Just do what I tell you. That's what we're paying for. I don't need your opinion. I need compliance." Let's not overcomplicate this with your ideas. Samuel let the first comment pass, noted the second. But after the third, he knew something had to change, or this dynamic would define their entire relationship. He spoke calmly, without anger. "I appreciate your business, and I genuinely want to help you succeed, but I need us to communicate with mutual respect. If that's not possible, we may need to reassess whether this partnership is the right fit." The room went quiet. The client blinked. The words hung in the air, not as a threat, but as a fact. Then, surprisingly, the client softened. "You're right. That was out of line. I've been under a lot of pressure, but that's no excuse." The dynamic shifted permanently after that moment, not because Samuel attacked, not because he yelled or made demands, but because he stated clearly what he required and showed he was willing to walk away if it wasn't provided. That willingness is what made the boundary real. Here's why this works. Boundaries without consequences are just suggestions. Anyone can say they don't like something. But when you communicate calmly that you're prepared to enforce your standard by leaving, ending the conversation, or reassessing the relationship, it carries weight. The key is delivery. No anger, no ultimatum energy, no desperation, just calm clarity. "This is what I need. Without it, we can't continue." That's not threatening. That's self-respect made visible. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Every moment you spend tolerating disrespect is time wasted." Boundaries protect your time, your energy, and your dignity. You've probably stayed in situations longer than you should have. Tolerated treatment you knew was wrong because confrontation felt uncomfortable. Let lines get crossed again and again because you never clearly drew them. Practice these phrases. "I don't engage in conversations with that tone. Let's pause and reset. I need mutual respect to continue." Say them like facts, not threats, and mean every word. Clear boundaries protect your dignity, but sometimes the most powerful response requires no words at all. Number 6. Let your body language speak for you. Before you say a single word, your body has already responded. And sometimes the most powerful reply isn't verbal at all. It's how you carry yourself in the moment. You've felt your body betray you before. Someone talks down to you and your shoulders tense, your eyes drop, your posture shrinks. You might not say anything weak, but your body already has, and everyone saw it. Here's what most people don't realize. Body language is processed faster than words. Before anyone hears your response, they've already read your physical reaction, and that reaction either reinforces your power or gives it away completely. What if your body communicated strength before you even opened your mouth? I'll never forget watching a woman named Teresa handle a brutal situation. At a conference in front of maybe 50 people, a senior executive dismissed her idea publicly. That's cute, but let's hear from someone with actual experience in this area. The room tensed. Everyone waited to see what would happen. Would she crumble? Would she fight back? Would she pretend it didn't hurt? Teresa did something unexpected. She held eye contact with the executive. Her posture remained straight. Her face stayed completely neutral, not angry, not hurt, not embarrassed, just calm. She nodded once, slowly, then said nothing at all. The silence stretched for 3 seconds. 4. The executive shifted uncomfortably. The dismissal that was supposed to diminish her hung in the air instead, making him look petty while she looked untouchable. Later, several people approached Teresa to say they admired how she handled it. Her silence and composure had communicated more than any comeback could have. Without a single word, she'd shown everyone in that room that his opinion didn't define her. Here's why this works. When you maintain physical composure, steady eye contact, relaxed shoulders, neutral expression, you communicate that you're unaffected before you even speak. This creates confusion for the person who tried to diminish you. They expected you rattled, they got calm. That disconnect makes them uncomfortable and makes you look powerful. Your body also influences your mind. When you consciously relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and breathe slowly, your internal state follows. Calm body creates calm mind, and calm mind chooses better responses. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But the reverse is equally true. Your body shapes your inner state. Train the outside, and the inside follows. You've probably let your body give you away before, tensed up when you should have stayed loose, looked down when you should have held eye contact, showed more than you meant to show. Most people have. Practice physical composure in low-stakes moments. When something annoys you, consciously relax your face and shoulders. Breathe slowly, maintain eye contact. Build the muscle memory now, so it's automatic when you need it most. Body language communicates without words, but the final method is about what happens after the moment passes, and it might be the most powerful response of all. Number 7, walk away and let your success respond. Sometimes the most powerful response isn't immediate. It's what happens in the weeks, months, and years that follow. Let your growth be the answer they never expected. You've felt that urge. Someone talks down to you and everything in you wants to prove them wrong right there. Show them they're mistaken. Make them see your worth in that exact moment. But here's what experience teaches. Some people won't change their minds no matter what you say. No comeback will shift their perception. No defense will earn their respect. Arguing with them is like fighting the wind, exhausting and pointless. So what do? You stop trying to convince them with words, and you start answering with your life. There was a man named Derek who spent years being underestimated. At work, a manager told him directly, "You're not leadership material. You should probably adjust your expectations." At family gatherings, relatives questioned every decision he made. Among certain friends, there was always someone ready with a condescending comment about his ambitions. Derek could have argued, could have defended himself constantly, could have exhausted himself trying to change minds that didn't want to change. Instead, he made a different choice. He stopped explaining himself, stopped defending his plans, stopped trying to convince anyone. He let their words pass through him and poured all that energy into his work, his skills, his growth, his goals. 5 years later, Derek ran his own company. The manager who doubted him had been let go during a restructure. The relatives who questioned him now came to him for advice. The friends who talked down to him watched from a distance as he built something undeniable. Derek never said, "I told you so." Never rubbed his success in their faces. He didn't need to. His life was speaking for him, louder than any words ever could. Here's the deepest truth about condescension. Sometimes the best response isn't a clever comeback. Sometimes it's becoming so successful, so grounded, so quietly powerful that their words become completely irrelevant. Your growth makes their doubt look foolish without you ever having to argue. This isn't about revenge, it's about redirection. Instead of wasting energy on people who look down on you, invest that energy in yourself. Let time prove what arguments never could. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Don't become bitter. Don't stay stuck trying to prove them wrong. Just become better, and let your results be the only answer that matters. You've probably wasted energy defending yourself to people who didn't deserve the explanation. Tried to earn respect from those who had already decided not to give it. Let their words slow you down when they should have fueled you forward. Next time someone talks down to you and no immediate response feels right, release it. Don't carry it. Channel that energy into building something. Your results over time will say what words never could. Some battles aren't won in the moment. They're won in the life you build after you walk away. 7 ways to respond when someone talks down to you. Pause and let silence work. Ask them to repeat themselves. Name the behavior calmly. Respond to the content, not the tone. Set a clear boundary with calm authority. Let your body language speak. And when no immediate response feels right, walk away and let your success answer for you. If this helped you see that you have more power in these moments than you ever realized, subscribe so we can keep building that power together. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Protect your dignity. Choose your response. Never let anyone's words determine your worth. You decide how this ends.